Time to do more work on the Cobra. We were busy doing some things this weekend to get everything ready to put the cockpit tub on top of the frame. Let's take a look at what we've got done. Okay, there's the tub right there. Of course, all I've got to do is lift the doors and the deck lid out of there in the dashboard, but that is the tub we're about to go mount, because what I've done is I finally got the body buck built, and there we have it. It is on wheels. I can roll it outside whenever I want to work on the frame, roll it inside. It only takes up one part of the bay in the garage. So I want to thank my neighbor Shannon for helping me with his immaculate carpentry skills, because I kind of suck at carpentry and I appreciate his assistance. It's time to get to work on this. What I'm planning on doing now is I'm going to start putting the aluminum on the firewall here, and also the heat resistant aluminum pad that goes on the footwells on either side of this. We're going to get started on that, get to work. And here we are literally 2 minutes later. The body is pushed outside just by a single person. Casters are locked down, so that is good to go. Now we got plenty of room to work. Okay, the general principle here is you've got to strip down just a little bit of this edge to here. We're going to mount it to this. Now there's a couple of different ways to mount these. You can crimp them, but the best way I think to do it is to use solder on them. And I have these solder pellets right here. Theoretically, the way this is supposed to work is you drop a pellet down into this. You heat it up, which I will be using my torch for that, and then slowly slide the exposed area of the cable, if I can get it to focus, down into it there. Unfortunately, as I noted, I left my camera that I usually hold stationary down in another location, so I'm not going to be able to actually film this, but I will show you the aftermarket, or the after effects of it as soon as it's done. Okay, obviously the best way to seal this off once it's done will be with some heat shrink. Unfortunately, I don't have any heat shrink that is large enough to go over this gigantic cable, but this will suffice just fine. I made sure I wrapped it heavily and very tightly, so I don't think I'll have any problem with that. I've done stuff like that before and it's never had an issue, but it is on there very, very strongly, soldered up. Should be a good connection. Now we're going to mount it onto the starter. Well, I have to say this is a lot easier if you have a second set of hands, but it is in place. Starting the mock-up, got the body tub mocked up, got the engine bay steel in place. Cockpit tub is in place. Dash is just sitting there, of course, but that's about where it's going to sit. That is my heater. I'm currently trying to find a location for it. I think I've got that figured out. Pedals sit in there nicely. Trunk tub is in. Of course, this is all just sitting there. This is the mock-up phase. But it is starting to resemble a car, which is kind of the goal. I did some preliminary checking, and it looks like, it's going to be close, but it looks like my air cleaner is going to clear without needing to use the hood scoop. I still am not 100% certain of that, but it looks like it's going to clear. That's going to make me very happy. I did not want the hood scoop. And now we're doing more work on the Cobra. Right now what I'm attempting to do is I've just drilled the holes following a template to mount the heater under the dash. Everything is a very tight fit. I've got the holes drilled in the fiberglass. Now I've got to mount up an aluminum panel and drill the holes in that. Let me show you what we got. Okay, the holes are drilled. The 3/8 holes are for the mounting studs. The other two are for the heater core. And a little bit of breaking on the fiberglass, which is to be expected. But this metal pan has got to be mounted up next. That is the next item for The Price is Right. All right, the holes are drilled. And I've got just enough clearance for all of my gauges. I'm going to have to route the vents in a weird way, but that's okay. I'm going to have to figure out something for this right here because it's a little bit tight. Again, this heater isn't exactly made for this. And I know that seems like a weird place to put the heater with the hoses in this area here, but upon my measurements, it just wouldn't fit over here this far. Plus, I've kind of got aims of adding a glove box right here, and I don't think that a glove box would work with the heater located over here, even if it did fit, which of course it doesn't. This has provisions for a defroster, but you do have to drill holes in the top of the body to do that, and I'm not sure I want to do that. I may just use the defroster holes and run some ducts over here, and just figure out a way to run some ducts and have those shooting out under the dash, and use those since these are a little bit blocked by this brace here. Still working on that, but it does clear the gauges, as you can see. Plus the gauges are going to gain about another 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch when I put the material on it to cover the dash, so that's good too. Okay, it's the next day, and got some things planned. Just got through with a rather expensive trip to a couple of parts stores. We had to go down to Arlington to Summit Racing and go by some other places to get some items to finish up what I've been trying to work on for the last few days, which is developing radiator hoses, the fuel sending unit, and other items such as that. Let me show you what we've got and what we're going to attempt to do here. Okay, in the Hurricane kit, they've got a couple of different hoses that they recommend. This one right here, for example, and there's another one which I seem to have misplaced. Here we go. These are the ones in the manual that they recommend. The problem with these is the bottom hose that they recommend is for 1.75 on one end, but it's 1.5 on the other, and I needed 1.75 on both ends. And also this one here, which sort of fits, is 1.75 on the wrong end too, which is incorrect. And it also does not have provisions for a filler neck. So I went and purchased a few items. Let me show you what we've got over here. This is a silicone hose kit from Summit, and I know everything that I need to create these hoses is not going to be in this kit, but it will be enough. Unfortunately, I'm going to have a mix of rubber and silicone on that, which I don't particularly care for, and I'll probably get everything mocked up and then later try to find a silicone to replace the rubber in that. But first things first, I also got some silicone heater hoses to mock up to the heater that I mounted. This is an elbow that replaces the plug in the intake for the heater hose inlet. This is a barb fitting to go into this item here, which is my filler neck. Now the problem with this filler neck is it takes a special kind of cap, and all of them do, because if you read the reviews on Summit, the biggest complaint on all parts of this type lie in the fact that the caps don't fit. They're too loose. And I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts, test fitted a bunch of them. The only one I found that fit really well, unfortunately, was the most expensive one they had, which is this one, which is actually pretty cool because it has a built-in gauge on it, and I can live with that. The problem was this was about 50 bucks. So yeah, 50 bucks for a radiator cap. Go figure. That thing better last forever. Also, I've decided to go with a different style of fuel sending unit, the plunger type like this right here. This is actually a marine unit, but I think it's going to work a little bit better. The pendulum type or swing arm types that you normally see, honestly, I haven't had very good luck with them. So hopefully all this stuff will work. We're going to get busy, and I'll show you the progress here in a little bit. Okay, first part is done. What I had to do here, this is a very crude tank that comes with the kit. The holes were not tapped. My sending unit came with a kit with some bolts, but they were a little bit too big for the holes that came with it. Fortunately, I had some button head screws that worked fine. Got my tap out of my extremely crappy Harbor Freight tap and die set. Tap those holes out, and it is good to go. So step one is done. At this time, I would also like to introduce my shop dogs. Have decided to join me. Cooper. This is Cooper. He's shop dog number 1. How you doing, buddy? You got a shake for Daddy? You got a shake for Daddy? You're camera shy, aren't you? Oh, well, that's okay. And shop dog number 2. Hello, Luna. Luna, do you have a shake for me? Do you have a shake for me? Yes, you do. And you've got wet feet. Somebody's been playing in the pool. At any rate, we're going to keep going. Time for radiator hoses and the other stuff. Okay, object lesson on how things don't normally fit. This ProFlow intake came with this plug in the area where the heater hose inlet goes. So I purchased this because I needed a 90 degree. Says it's a 5/8 pipe fitting, which is what it was supposed to be. Didn't fit, too big. So in my trip to Summit today, I got another one. You hold them up exactly together. They seem like they fit. The other one didn't fit. This one did. Of course, the irritating thing about this is I had to remove the distributor to get the thing in there because it wouldn't swing with the 90 degree. But at least now I can route my hoses. Okay, this is complete. Heater hoses are routed. Of course, heater hoses are always going to be a little bit cumbersome on the right side of the engine, but the good news is we've got it run. I really like this silicone hose. It's easy to work with, easy to cut, and allegedly lasts forever. So if that is the case, I will be switching over to it to use. It is enormously expensive compared to rubber hoses, but I think that it will be easier to use on some of these projects when you're doing custom stuff. My audience is still here, as you can see. Hello, Luna. And of course, Cooper is checking things out over here. Always good when you have supervision. One thing I will recommend as well when you're cutting hoses, use a hose cutter. That way you can get a nice even cut. You can see my cuts are very, very flush, very good. Very inexpensive tool from Summit. This is a hose cutter, rubber hose cutter. Not that expensive at all and very useful. Well, some good news and bad news on the radiator hose. The good news is the top one, the 45 with my connector and the 90 degree is going to work just fine. Cap works and everything. Little bit of a collapse, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. It's not big of a deal at all, as a matter of fact. The downside is at the bottom, I'm 2/3 of the way there. The 90 degree works. Then the metal elbow comes out, but then I need a 45 degree 1.75. The good news is those aren't hard to come by. The bad news is it's going to be here Tuesday, so I'm not going to be able to finish this today. Otherwise, if I can avoid choking to death, and as you can see, my shop dog's abandoning me. Our third dog, who is decidedly not a shop dog, has decided he wanted to go in the backyard and bark, and they decided that was much more interesting than what I was doing, so they decided to join him, and they're out there raising hell right now. But anyway, radiator hoses, 90% of the way there. Heater hoses are mocked up and good to go. The elbow right there to mount the heater hoses to the intake is in and good to go. And our fuel sending unit is in as well. So we're making progress today big time. Now what I'm going to do is, there is of course the fiberglass trunk floor. I'm going to locate this, drill a hole in the trunk floor, and then cover it with a bolt-on metal sheet. That way we can rig up a way where it is accessible without having to pull the car apart. If I ever need to change the sending unit, I don't have to drop the tank or anything like that. So that should be useful. One other thing I got today, what is in these bags right here, is simply some 80W90 gear oil. I've got some friction additive for the traction lock, and I've got 3 quarts of Dextron 3 for the Tremec TKX transmission. Those fluids will go in as soon as I get ready to remove this tub again, because I'll have to remove it, make some adjustments underneath. I'll add the fluids to it, but I've got to remove that so I can change some things up here. And I have decided I'm going to contact Shell Valley Motors, who is also a Cobra manufacturer, very, very good company. They have a glove box door and a glove box kit. I'm going to contact them, get some measurements off of it, and I think that's the route I'm going to go, and actually mount a glove box in this car as well. So we are good to go there. As you can see, the heater is good. Everything mounts up, ready to go. I'm happy with the progress I'm making. I'm still waiting on the aluminum to complete the engine bay. Aluminum pieces that go here, they go behind the wheels on both sides, because I cannot mount my fuel system, my overflow tank, or other things until that is done. I've decided I think I'm going to go ahead and mount the reservoirs for the master cylinders right there. And of course I'm waiting on this corner piece here to allow me to mount up the linkage for the throttle as well, and to put the gas pedal in place. So we're still waiting on parts, but we're making progress slowly. Well, as I can't seem to leave well enough alone, I decided to tackle one more thing before I took a break. This aluminum piece that goes on the fiberglass tub. Most people rivet these on. I wanted a little bit more of an industrial and different look, so I'm going with, again, button heads. Are you noticing the theme there? This is, by the way, a cover that just protects the aluminum. I'm going to leave that on as long as I can, but as you can see, I got that in. I've got 4 more on the bottom there that I'm going to put in place, but I've got to pull the tub off of it before I can get to those with the drill, so I'll just wait on that. But the rest of it is there, and it is mounted and ready to go. And I've got the trunk tub back on without a hole for the sending unit, which is right here in this area, roughly. It looks like it's going to be okay, but if I determine that it's a little bit too close, the gap between the sending unit and the floor is very, very close. So if I decide it's a little close, I may go ahead and drill that hole as I noted. But as of right now, it's sitting back together. Well, as I've been working, I've been thinking about my plan on the sending unit. You know, I talked about drilling a hole and creating a plate to bolt down on to get to the sending unit. The fact of the matter is the sending units don't go out that much, and if they do, to be honest with you, it's not that big of a deal the way I've got the tank mounted. It's 2 bolts to drop the tank. So I think what I'm going to do is I will just simply mount it up and run with it, because it keep the integrity of the floor, one less thing to seal off, things of that nature. So I think I'm going to leave that alone. That's going to do it for this video. I've got some more stuff coming up with the 32 Ford, planning on going there next week to get some more work done, block sanding on the 32, and of course I'll be doing the work on the Cobra as well. Thanks for joining me. Come back again.